This next panel is going to be very interesting on the topic of pioneering precision and regenerative aquaculture. It does feel that sort of aquaculture is sort of under pressure to produce more with sort of fewer resources. And so the question is really, can sort of precision tools and innovation, to what extent can those improve fish health and feed efficiency while reducing the need for antibiotics? What kind of regenerative models can help to ensure that the industry restores rather than depletes ecosystems? And to what extent is the industry scaling up innovation fast enough to meet market demand responsibly? Obviously, that's a huge critical challenge as we think about the rising demand for seafood globally over the coming years. So Diane, I kind of want to start with you, and I wonder if you can just kind of set the scene in terms of maybe some of the innovations that you're working on at MOE.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and talk about our operations. So precision farming, if you were agricultural, canola farmer, you would know all about precision farming. So it's all about being able to present the right ingredients at the right time, at the right speed, in the right amount. So what you're really trying to do is to optimize your farming, optimize the opportunities for the animal or the crop, the fish that you're in charge of, that you're taking care of, so that they can be the most productive they can be. And so for MOE, it may be hard to tell, but I've been in this industry for probably almost 35 years. So I know, I started when I was 4, and, and I've aged well because I eat a lot of salmon. When I started in 1992, the farms were wooden. They were using bags full of rocks to hold the nets down. The nets were made of nylon. We were feeding by scoop. So everybody had a scoop and a small bag of feed that they would put in a bucket and go back and forth and feed the fish. What we do now is so different, has advanced so much, and especially in the last 10 years, the advancement has really taken off. So we have now where we feed through automatic feeding systems, and it's delivered by air or by water into the pen. And we have really high definition cameras now that are in the pen, that are on winches, that can move up and down, side to side, that are watching the fish. We have AI technology that is monitoring for pellets. So as I say to our teams, every pellet must find a mouth. And the AI is helping to do that. Our teams are sitting behind monitors that are projecting the view from the camera, and they're feeding the fish at the right rate, at the right time, watching the swimming behavior, getting feedback actually from AI on how the activity is and where they are in the feeding cycle. They're at the beginning, they're swimming very quickly. As they start to fill up and satiate, they slow down. So they're getting all these cues that, okay, I'm going to slow down the delivery of my feed. And then you have AI giving you little red circles if any pellets are making it close to the camera. And in these cameras, you've also got water quality monitoring equipment. So it's monitoring temperature and oxygen levels and salinity. And there's more to come. And then in these cameras, you're getting feedback on the size and the condition factor of the fish. So you're getting feedback on biomass. So you're getting feedback on, at this amount of biomass, I should be feeding this amount. Is that what I'm feeding? You know, historically, you have checks and balances all the time. So you're getting so much information in to help you be the best farmer you can possibly be and deliver it in the best way possible for the fish. And that's just feeding. So there's so much more that is going on. It's mind-blowing.
Would you say that's sort of average for the average sort of aquaculture fishery at the moment, or would you say MOE's sort of more on the leader side of adopting these technologies, or is this kind of pretty standard at the moment?
I think we have the luxury and the privilege of being the largest salmon farming company in the world. We produce 20% of the salmon globally. We operate in 7 different locations, to both coasts of Canada. Third coast we haven't started yet. So we have that luxury. Yeah. We have that backing behind us. I think the smaller producers are able to adopt some of this, maybe not to the same level, but it's getting cheaper and cheaper all the time as this becomes more common. So I'd like to think that our ability to adopt this innovation then makes it easier for smaller producers to also adopt it.
What are some of the outcomes that level of precision is able to deliver?
So I'd say the top three would be, of course, you're able to optimize your growth. And as a farmer, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to have, as I said, the fish perform to the best of its ability. So it's growing as quickly as it can so we can get it to harvest. So that would be the first thing. The other thing would be the cost, because there's no wastage of feed. The pellets are finding a mouth, and feed is at least 60% of our operating costs. So we are very careful with our feed. And then again, health, I think, would be the other thing. When you've got these cameras that are looking at and assessing biomass, they are also able to, with the correct software, do sea lice counts, so you don't have to handle the fish, but you can get this all the time. You get instant feedback on sea lice. They do welfare scores as well, so you're getting the feedback on how the fish are doing. And maybe before I retire, maybe not, what I'd really like to think is we hear talk about facial recognition, so that they'll be able to identify individual fish. And if the system is picking up that this fish is not doing well, we'll have a way, then the technology will be developed to be able to segregate that fish off, do an intervention if necessary, and then have it come back to the population. That's my science fiction, and I believe it'll happen.
Wow.
Yeah. And I can remember back in my day talking about big data, and would we ever get there? And now we have big data, but now we need to use it. Now we need to find a way to take that data and put it into a program or somehow so we can pull out the important bits of information to keep us driving forward, to identify where we can improve, where the risks are, where the benefits are. And that will be the big driver, because right now we have data coming out the yin-yang. And we did hear the farms as well are a great source when people are looking for environmental data about what's going on in the ocean, because we are taking that. So when people talk about we don't know what's going on in the ocean, what's changing, come to a farm.
Oh, yeah.
And we can tell you about some of the data over the years.
Well, obviously we do now all of the proliferation of the Gen AI tools that are available now. Are those kind of almost off-the-shelf tools sort of good enough to help you kind of process and analyze that data, or do you need a kind of specific bespoke solution, and is that something that you're exploring?
Well, the providers that we work with they are also learning. So as they get more and more data from us and we ask more and more questions about what we're seeing, they then go off to their little dark rooms and sit behind their computer screens and come back and say, does this work? So it's a constant learning. And I think because you have different commercial providers of the software, that will be maybe a sticking point that we need to be thinking about, is how we can bring them all together, because you need to be able to look at all the aspects.
Well, and that's why Maui is a great proving ground for the development of those technologies, because you understand the biology of salmon and its growth process so well from so many decades of developing the species for large-scale production. With alternative or emerging species like we're talking about, we still are learning a lot all the time about production procedures, about selective breeding and how to get the most out of every single fish. And once those technologies, those precision tools are developed with a species like salmon, they so much more easily can transfer into these new and emerging species that are still in the development process, in the scaling process.
I think we need three of you guys, girls, come to Newfoundland and show Newfoundland how to raise their aquaculture, because it's all we've been getting the die-offs done our way, right? And our water is just horrible and garbage and trash from aquaculture. So I think three of you need to show them how to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is
Thanks for the
interesting.
vote of confidence.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, inspire and kind of share great practice? How do you sort of raise it up and communicate it and share it across the industry?
Well, I think that's an amazing thing right there, is you have a member of the community sitting there talking about their home turf and saying, come and do aquaculture here. Mm-hmm. Please go speak to your legislators or your government officials and say that, because in the grand scheme, we are still a very small food production sector. And we don't always get the attention and the limelight that we need to make our voices as producers heard. The market demand is there. Protein consumption is the greatest megatrend, and we know the most nutrient-dense proteins we have are coming from seafood. So how do we do that in a responsible way? And it starts at the community level to say, we want this farming, we want this type of food production infrastructure on our home turf. And with that comes all the benefits of locally produced food and supply chain shortening and better solutions for how we get food to people.
We've got brilliant minds, brilliant ideas. We just need the stage and the system in place for them to start. And also, as important it is for them to succeed, it has to be okay for them to fail too, because we don't have this figured out. And I think having that kind of support, whether it's financial, systems, learning, whatever it is, that we have that support so that people reach for the stars. We are the only offshore finfish aquaculture operation in the United States. So for us, pioneering in that sense is something we're very proud of, but also something that we take very, very, very seriously, because we understand that we can't do this alone. Precision is the tool set, regeneration is the outcome. We understand that there's a lot we need to learn from each other. And I think there are 3 pillars to the future of regeneration. First of all, it's not whether we can do it, it's how we're going to do it, because it's the only option for aquaculture to still be here in 50 to 100 years. We need to keep seafood at an affordable price where we're still being responsible, but that the parent who's in the grocery store with 2 mouths to feed and looking at a piece of protein that's $4 less, we need to educate them and have it at a place where they can still reach and buy that $4 piece of fish because they understand why that's important to do so. And so I think there are definitely standards in place, and I think we're all holding ourselves accountable, but I think it also comes from the push in the buyers and the investors to educate the consumers, to make sure that it's not just us at the operational level saying the importance of this, it's that the consumers are also pushing from the other direction, holding buyers accountable and retail and food service accountable to say, where's that fish coming from? But not just to ask where, they have an answer in their head that they're looking for.
And just to build on one of the points about the innovation, and you don't want the standards to stagnate that, and what I was saying about how quickly things are being developed and innovating. You talked about scaling, and so you have this new piece of equipment, and it sounds like it'll be the answer, and it'll help you move you up the scale, but it's not really proven yet. So we need a way, the timeline to scale. You need a time and an acceptance from regulators, really, and perhaps the public, to say, I'm going to try this new technology. It may fail, and we have to be willing to accept that. Otherwise, we won't be brave enough to try these new technologies. So we need that as well. None of this is simple. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's why we can't do the 30-second soundbite, because it's a disservice to the complexity and the way that we are all thinking about what we do.